How are you, Tony?
I'm doing well, Dan. How you been?
Doing okay. Where are you today?
I'm in Nueva York, out here promoting the doc and being a New Yorker.
Could you play this weekend?
Play what?
Football.
Football. You know what? I could do about five, 6 plays. Don't ask me to block either.
Well, nobody asked you to block before, Tony. I'm not going to ask you now.
Yeah, they did. Come on. Don't say that.
Okay,
Yes.
but I see Jimmy Graham, and it was supposed to be a big deal that he was learning to block. Like, has the tight end changed where you really are a wide receiver just lined up closer to the offensive line? That they're not asking you to block anymore?
Well, I mean, if you talk to Jimmy, he wanted to be classified as a receiver anyway, because he knows he doesn't want to block when he was trying to get paid all that money. So I don't think there's news there that he's not really the best blocker. But me as the nostalgic old school guy, when I came into the league back in my day, you had to block, and that's part of the position as far as I'm concerned. Otherwise, call it a different position, call it a flex position. But asking Jimmy Graham to block now, that's not what he's built his reputation on, or what he does best. So I don't see why you would put him in that position anyway as an offensive coordinator.
But the value of the tight end has changed dramatically here. And, what Belichick did when he had the 2 tight ends there, the value of Gronk, Gates. I mean, you helped pave the way for the new tight end. But are tight ends ever going to be more valuable than wide receivers?
I think they should, especially if you get a guy who can block, or someone like Gronkowski. I think he's worth every bit just as much as, let's say, any top receiver in the NFL. And I think it's a shame. I actually wrote an article on it last year on how I don't see why if you just look at the numbers and production, why would you not pay them like you would pay a big-time wide receiver on your team?
But if I said you could have Julio Jones or Rob Gronkowski?
You'd have to think about that now. Now, of course, I think right off the top of my head, it also depends who's playing quarterback. But yeah, you can make an argument for Gronkowski, and I'm not saying pay him as much as Julio Jones, because he's certainly an explosive play. Anytime he catches the ball, he could take it the distance. But you have to pay them close to what you would play Julio Jones. The pay scale is now, we're talking $3 to $4 million in difference of salary a year. I think that's ridiculous.
Who would you want to get a pass from? Who did you always say, God, I'd like to have just one time that guy throw me a football?
Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, one of those two. You look at what those guys have done with the tight ends that they've been with: Julius Thomas, not Owen Daniels, Gronkowski, Dallas Clark, Jacob Tamme. You see guys like that are putting up monster numbers with these Hall of Fame type quarterbacks. It would have been fun. I played with some good quarterbacks. No knock against those guys, but to play with a surgeon like that, like one of those two, it would have been a lot of fun.
Okay, but let's just have fun with this. If you played with Peyton or Brady, you had 1,300 receptions, 15,000 yards. Would you be the all-time leader, do you think, in career receptions and yards?
I put it this way: I've worked out with Tom Brady, and after the workout, we were sitting there talking, and he's like, and I hope he's not going to get mad at me for saying, we discussed that I would probably average over 100 catches if I would have played with him. But that obviously that's easier said than done. But yeah, I think my numbers probably would have been a lot better, And like I said, and that is no knock against the quarterbacks I play. I play with some very good quarterbacks, but we're talking Hall of Famers here. It would have been fun to work with those guys.
And Hall of Famers who love their tight ends. That they, other guys love wide receivers. Those are two guys who were great with their tight ends.
Absolutely. It would have been. Though I think the good example of this is look at Jimmy Graham. He goes from Hall of Famer Drew Brees, searching 40, 45 different offense, throwing the ball, and he goes down there to Seattle now, and you look at the numbers that he's putting up, and don't tell me that Jimmy Graham isn't the player he used to be. Are you kidding me? You plug Jimmy Graham back into or the New England Patriots, he'd be doing the same exact thing that Gronkowski's doing. It's just now he's in a different offense. It's a different quarterback. Not a passer. He's a great quarterback, not a good one. But Russell Wilson is not that guy that's going to drop back and shred a defense up with the pass and throw 400 or 500 yards a game. It's just a different situation now.
If you gave Jimmy Graham a do-over,
would he? Well, remember he got traded.
Yeah,
so
but he wanted to go. He wanted to get paid too.
Yeah, he wanted to get paid. Well, he got paid. He was with them last year. And if you gave him a do-over, would he have tried to play nice and say, I really want to stay in the New Orleans? And I don't even know exactly what went on there.
Yeah.
Maybe he would have. If you're looking from a numbers standpoint, maybe he would have chose to go somewhere where you get a guy who's going to throw it 40, 50 times a game. Because the numbers now, those days of Jimmy catching 85, 95 balls, 1,200, 1,300 yards, and 12 to 14 touchdowns a year, I got to say, are probably in the rearview mirror as long as he's out there in Seattle. And it doesn't mean he's not going to have great seasons. He'll have great seasons. He'll put up good numbers. They'll figure out a way to start getting the ball. But those days are sayonara. I don't think it's going to happen anymore.
He's Tony Gonzalez from CBS Sports, future Hall of Famer, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Shannon Sharp had some strong words for Antonio Gates for getting popped with failing a PED test. And, does that mean anything with his numbers? Your thoughts on that? Does that matter that Gates got popped?
Well, if you hear the reason why he got popped and you believe him, then then you got to say, well, I don't think he did anything wrong. But it all comes down to your personal judgment. I've always admired Gates. I've watched him when we were in the same division when I was in Kansas City and he was in San Diego. So I got to see him twice a year. He's a phenomenal player. But if he was doing, and you can prove it, then yeah, I think those numbers. I'm not going to be as impressed if he was cheating and using a banned substance to gain an advantage. But I'll never know. Nobody will ever know. It's going to be because he's not going to admit it, obviously, and there's no way to really prove. I guess the test proves at least something was in there, but who knows? It's always one of those cases. Who knows? And I guess that's my best answer I can come up with.
Yeah. Were you ever offered PEDs?
No, never.
Not even around anybody who said, dude, you got to try this, or you should try this, or you can get away with this if you try it?
Never. Honestly, never. But there are certain guys that I look around and I'm like, hold on. How'd you gain 25 pounds this offseason?
You know right away.
You can tell. You can tell on certain guys. And the big thing now that you hear about is the HGH, the human growth hormone. That's what not a lot of guys, but that you hear rumors of guys taking now. And, and I'm sure they'll come up with a way.
Oh, there's a lot of guys taking it, Tony. There's a lot of guys taking HGH. If they're not testing, I understand it. They're not testing or they weren't testing. And these guys in that violent world, I understand it. We may want everybody to start at ground zero here, but I understand why guys do it and they can get away with it.
I understand fully as well. It's the risk reward. Is it worth doing it so you can stay in the league and make a couple extra $1 million bucks? What would you do if you were in that situation? That's what people need to ask themselves.
Yeah, and if I'm young, and I said this before, if I'm coming from the Dominican Republic to play baseball to get out of poverty, whatever it takes. If I'm borderline, you were talented. You were a great athlete. It's not fair to you, but I understand why guys do it. And if I'm 23 years of age, I would certainly consider doing it. If I could stay in the game, in the show, whatever it was, whatever I was getting out of, I understand it. It's everybody has this blanket statement of, oh, you never do that, and the integrity of the game. And everybody's got a background here. Everybody's got a different story. So I don't sit there and have, from my ivory tower and cast aspersions. I understand guys will do it, but if you do it, you pay the price. And whatever that price is for Antonio Gates or Barry Bonds or Roger Clemens, hey, the risk, the reward, as you said, you have to factor that in. And those guys are still paying a price for it.
I agree, especially too, when you look around and everybody else is doing it and everybody else is gaining the benefit of it. And you're like, well, I'm not going to stay home and just sit on my ass and not make it and complain about it. I'm going to, because everybody else is doing it, I might as well do it. So
yes.
It's a tough question.
The documentary looks at Tony's life, family, career. It premieres Friday at 9 Eastern on Showtime. It's called Play It Forward. Excited about this? Nervous about this?
A little nervous. It aired at Tribeca Film Festival, so I got to see a little bit of the crowd's reaction from there. It won. Luckily, we won the sports documentary of Tribeca, and that's why Showtime bought it, I guess.
Nice.
But yeah, you know what? It gives people a view of the NFL that I don't think has been seen too much, and the story that I felt like it needed to be told. And it's just one of many. But my brother, he's right around 2 years older than me. My biggest supporter, and it's about our journey, my journey of trying to win a playoff game, and then his journey of becoming a fireman and how we supported each other throughout that. And then my family, my stepdad, he passed away during the shooting of the documentary, and how his voice is placed throughout the whole film. And I wanted people to see the rawness of behind the scenes and how families support each other and how it goes way beyond the game. Now, of course, there's going to be great football footage in there, but it's mainly about my brother. He's the star of the show, and us supporting him, the role reversal of us supporting him instead of them supporting me.
I look forward to watching it. Friday night at 9 Eastern on Showtime. It's called Play It Forward. Tony, thanks for joining us.
Thank you as always, Dan. Appreciate it.
All right, Tony Gonzalez. A good visit from Tony.